morning, everyone. My name is Nathan Williams.
I'm Jake Mosier.
I'm Megan Casiola.
And I'm Anthony Kemmer.
And we're going to discuss the issue of food deserts in Alliance, Ohio. So to start, we want to define what a food desert is. According to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, food deserts are areas that lack access to affordable fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat milk, and other foods that make up the full range of a healthy diet. So the key word for food deserts is access, which can be impaired or limited by several factors, such as income, location, time, and the ability to travel to a store.
So when defining food deserts, there's a lot of factors that contribute that we have to consider when they're doing census tract data, things like that. They have to consider accessibility, individual barriers, and neighborhood indicators. In terms of accessibility, that's how many healthy food sources there are in one area or how far away it is from someone. Individual could be their own personal unique barriers that they have, such as a lack of funds, a lack of a car. And neighborhood indicators are determining factors such as reliable transportation or public transportation that may vary between neighborhood as well as the average income level in that neighborhood.
Some general issues with food deserts. Low-income families, they tend to find it difficult to find an affordable and healthful food supermarket to begin with, let alone one in their proximity. And this often makes it difficult for them to choose between basic lifestyle necessities that most families should never have to stress about, including gas, food budgets, medicine, clothing, when and how they're going to pay their rent, all kinds of such things that make it very uncomfortable to live with. But food deserts also create an overabundance of malnourished citizens, which leads me to my next slide. The health-related issues. People living in food deserts often become more reliant on food retailers and fast food avenues, which make them more susceptible to diets rich in high sugar, sodium, and unhealthy fat levels that lead to a lot of unhealthy conditions long term, such as these chronic diseases and other such ailments. There's often limited or unaffordable healthcare systems that are also found in food deserts. And malnutrition also has negative impacts on pregnant women, as it weakens their immune system due to susceptibility to vitamin A, iron, and other key nutrient deficiencies, which in turn can lead to miscarriages and birth defects. People with allergies also suffer in food deserts because it's more difficult for them to find foods that are more safe for them to eat, which also adds to the decreased availability to a healthy nutritional balance in their diet. People also tend to be aware of the condition they're living in when they live within food deserts, which leads to a lot of mental health issues, including food insecurity, anxiety, and depression. A general knowledge of how to combat food deserts includes measurement. It's very key to know a lot of resilient community-based and community-led access assets. One of the most effective ways in identifying the nature of a food desert is through surveying, which it just allows you to have a more direct contact with the individuals and citizens living within a food desert. Modernization of identifying food deserts is also very key. Online food delivery systems have become more and more effective. It's not always applicable, but the alertness and the strive to do that is always of key concern with food programs that try to bring a community up from suffering in food desert. Policies that address food price fluctuation are also very key. Policies that push for community food programs and projects that expand federal grants and provide resources such as food stamps and tax incentives that could go as far as decreasing tax thresholds for low-income households also have become more and more beneficial and more heavily utilized. Of course, promotion of food desert awareness and then utilizing food drives and community activities, social media posts, all kinds of tabling and just general food awareness knowledge makes it more attainable to reach a food desert goal.
So one interesting study, excuse me, one interesting study that we found is the use of technology to fight food deserts. There was this combined heat and power system that one group studied. It has a potential to reduce the operating costs of a grocery store by 55% in a heating dominant climate. This is huge because often the biggest issue with food deserts is the cost of having healthy grocery stores around the area. So if more technology is able to be implemented by these grocery stores, it could reduce costs and businesses would be more likely to set up shops in that area.
And although Jake and Nate are mentioning ways that they can combat food deserts and sort of steps you can take in a community, we think it's important to acknowledge that it's not a simple fix. It's a very complex, wicked problem that cannot be just fixed with one change. It requires institutions and interdisciplinary actions it requires institutions to work together. And like Jake was mentioning, it requires political change, it requires economic change, everything like that to kind of build a community up. But in order to create substantial change, we hope that all of these, bring awareness to all of these, it can help.
One other thing that we thought that would be important to emphasize is the difference between a food desert and a food swamp, because we would argue that Alliance, even on State Street, is suffering from a food swamp, which is, the difference essentially is a food swamp differs from food deserts in its level of food insecurity. A food swamp is that there are generally 4 more unhealthy retailers to every healthy retailer. So Alliance has 13 pizza places, 2 McDonald's, 2 Burger Kings, 2 Taco Bells, an Arby's, a Wendy's, a Dairy Queen, a KFC, and a Sheetz. There's only 5 grocery store chains on State Street, so this extreme level of unhealthy access to food heavily outweighs healthy grocery stores in the area. So despite the fact that we have a food desert in downtown Alliance, we also, I would argue, have a food swamp along State Street because of how much unhealthy fast food restaurants there are.
So getting into the downtown Alliance area more, as Nate was saying, there's very limited grocery store selection in the downtown Alliance area. Along with this, business is primarily located up on State Street. This is due to like the high traffic. Not a lot of people head down towards downtown Alliance. All the stores and restaurants are up on State Street, so that draws everyone up to there. And it really discourages more businesses from moving into the downtown Alliance area because they know that all the business is up on State Street. So if they move down there, they're moving out of the busiest area of Alliance into an area that is not as busy and doesn't get as much traffic as State Street. So in the downtown Alliance area, it's more than a mile from State Street where all these grocery stores are located. And on the maps that I'm going to show you, it'll map out the exact area that these food deserts are primarily located in downtown Alliance. They have very limited selections. I was looking it up, and really the only grocery store type like establishments they have are a Dollar General and a Family Dollar. And these, as you know, aren't really grocery stores per se. I was looking online at like the selection of food they have, and the produce is very limited to none. And then other than that, they have like canned foods and a lot of like instant food like ramen noodles and like other packs of food like that. And then they also did have some fast food places for people to go. It was Burger King and Subway were really the only ones down that way. So we found on the U.S. Department of Agriculture's website, they have some mapping you can do to find low-income areas and other areas that relate to that as well. So first off, I mapped out the low-income areas in Alliance. As you can see, it's a little hard, but the shaded-in area are those low-income areas. For reference, this is Mount Union, so downtown Alliance would be up there a little bit in the blue. As you can see, all of the low-income areas are north of State Street. You don't really see any on the other side where all those grocery stores are located and all the fast food restaurants as well. So then I put on the filter to look at the low income and low accessibility areas in Alliance. So these are just areas that are more than 1 mile urban or 10 miles rural from the nearest supermarket. So that's really the direct location of downtown Alliance. So it supported what we were finding, that downtown Alliance is a food desert. So next, I then looked at low income and low vehicle access because we were curious as like what percentage of that population in the downtown Alliance area is actually able to drive up to these supermarkets and grocery stores, since it is a mile or more to most of them. So this again showed the downtown Alliance area, and then it actually came farther up towards campus as well. And this is just using the low-income census tract, where this is more than 100 housing units do not have a vehicle, and they're more than half a mile away from the nearest grocery store or supermarket. And then I added this one in to show the low vehicle access has gotten better since 2015. So the new data is from 2019, and in those 40 years, the area of low vehicle access has shrank, and now it's just the red is 2019 and what's left of that low vehicle access areas.
So to talk a little bit about some helpful places that we have in downtown Alliance is the Alliance Community Food Pantry. This is located on 215 East Market Street, and its current hours are Monday and Wednesday 4 to 7 and Tuesday 9 to noon. That is when families can come and get food. I actually volunteer there, and it's a very great place to volunteer because you can actually see the families that you're helping, and it's very busy during those times because it's very limited hours. But they come either once a week or once every 2 weeks, and the way they do it, it's based on family size, income level, and like I was just there yesterday actually, and we were giving out Thanksgiving items because they're not open next week, and larger number of families have the ability to get a turkey as well as other Thanksgiving items, and then every other size can get other items like mashed potatoes and vegetables, things like that. But they do specials for the holidays and things like that. And they get like a full cart whenever they come with their ticket. So it's a wide variety. There's produce, canned goods, pastas, all kinds of meats, things like that. It's 100% a volunteer organization. They do not have paid staff, and their two main sources of food donations are the Akron Canton Food Bank and local donations from like Drives on Campus and such other similar organizations. And their main funding is individual contributions, it's from churches, companies and organizations, or grants.
So, census tract is a small, relatively permanent subdivision of a country or county, that usually contains between 1,000 and 8,000 people, and this is according to USDA. The qualifying thresholds are low income, which is a poverty rate of 20% or greater, or a median family income at or below 80% of the statewide or metropolitan area median family income. And low access is at least 500 people and or at least 33% of a population that lives more than 1 mile from a supermarket or a large grocery store.
So this is census tract data that I received from Abby Schroeder. It's from the USDA as well. This maps, like he was saying, the census tract data of our Alliance area, and you can see there's great disparities. If you see the colored areas, the green, the pink, the blue, and the yellow, they're all down here, whereas State Street's right here, and it's on the complete opposite side. So this is just another way that they map areas of need, specifically like for a county or a city. And I just wanted to emphasize Target area number 1, there's 73 low to moderate income area. Target area number 2 is 65 low to moderate. Target 3 is 86 low to moderate income area, and number 4 is 46 low to moderate. So every single one of these areas is mapped like that because they have that low to moderate income, and that kind of helps with knowing how to better address the area, target the area, what can go in that area to improve it, and all of that is just very important when wanting to combat a food desert. Recently, there has been a grant written by Abby Schroeder and Christine Still of Mount Union. This grant was authored by them, and the Stark County Foundation gave $100,000 to better support the Alliance community with the creation of the Alliance Area Community Learning Center. And this will include a branch of Stark Fresh, which is a nonprofit grocery store, and it'll be going in on 405 South Linden. It's very much in the process, but that is in downtown Alliance, and it would not have happened if these two had not written the grant or asked for the help. And it also will include a men and women's clothing store that I believe YWCA will use for certain events and storage and things. It will include programming for kids and other initiatives that are still to come, but would be a very great thing to have this nonprofit store down there just as another option for people that may not be able to get to State Street.
All right, so we're gonna do a little activity. So on here, we're gonna give you a QR code you can scan with your phones, or if you want, you can write down this link really quick if you'd rather do it on your computer. Do you wanna go to the next slide? So you'll scan this QR code. It's a little touchy on your phones, so you kinda gotta play with it, but this is gonna open up the map that I use to find the food, like the low-income areas in downtown Alliance. So I just want you guys to go, you type in your zip code in the search bar of your home, wherever you live, and then from there you can look and select which features to put on, like low income, low vehicle access, and can you take care of that? I can go back. So this is what you'll see on the right side of your screen. And you can just go through. First, I want you guys to do the low income and low accessibility at 1 in 10 miles. It'll be the first option on the top row.
Is it working for everyone? You can certainly play around with whichever layer you would like to look at.
A lot of times too, you'll have to zoom out on the map to see like the full area. Has anyone found that their hometown has a food desert or is located in a food desert or around one?
Yes.
Yeah? Are you in one or around one?
I'm
North of it? Okay.
I know exactly where it is
I know I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina, and it was crazy to see in Columbia itself how much of a food desert problem there was in the city itself with people not having access to healthy grocery stores in the city of Columbia in South Carolina.
Does anyone want to share their results or what they found? Was anyone surprised by their results? Or not surprised, or why?
I think like for cities, like people think like major cities, like you said, like Columbia, like that doesn't surprise me because like downtown
Yeah.
urban areas, like, you're gonna have like a bodega, you're gonna have a grocery store,
Anybody else find that something they didn't expect or do you generally know like a lot about your hometown area and you knew how it would be, or like you mentioned, you knew that you were north of one? Yeah.
Yeah, and
I would be curious to know, you know, in those areas where there's low income and food deserts, how many, you know, liquor stores availabilities are there compared to grocery stores? I would just be curious to know that.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they mapped that.
I just know a lot, when I was looking through these maps myself, I put in like my hometown, which is up in Cleveland, and I live like right on the outskirts of a food desert, but I never really would have guessed that because I had access, like I was right on the edge where like it was a very close walk to grocery stores and all of that. But like I never really realized like if I were to go the other way away from my house, like there really is nothing. And I didn't know that because I would never go down that way. But it's like kind of crazy to think because that's a 5-minute walk for me, but they're like way farther from the grocery stores. So it kind of just made me think a little bit.
Does anyone else want to share what they found?
I think too, like, I've never really thought about like that area of the lines being like that far away, like,
Yeah.
it's not that far of the grocery store, but you also have to think about the vehicle,
And walking
yeah, like
groceries.
people don't have cars.
And I wouldn't say that State Street's very pedestrian friendly.
Right.
So even that in itself. There's a lot of traffic on there, let alone the speed at which people travel. Do you guys know of any food banks or food pantries in your area? I know it wouldn't tell you on that map, but just from where you live. I know I can't really think of one where I'm from. I don't know, do you know?
They're all like, the ones that like I know are like Cleveland, like
Okay.
in the areas that like obviously like needed.
But more urban based.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But I also think like it's crazy because like I had volunteered at one, it was like a shelter and they had like a Thanksgiving like dinner for them. But I think it's crazy that like they like have to wait in a long line out in the cold and like they might
Yeah.
wait and not even be able to come in. I just think that's awful.
Yeah, that's why I feel like they need to be more prevalent if that's the only source.
Right.
Like, I mean, I know yesterday when I was at the Alliance when there was a long line and I thought that was because of them being not open next Wednesday, but I mean, it's always busy, so.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I would volunteer at a food pantry by my house in Cleveland, and every single time the line was out the door and down the street. And then like you were saying, like they would run out of food to give out, and then there would still be 50 people in line who didn't get it. So,
That's where I think policy comes into play. If we can, kind of advocate more for these even being put into areas, it's just another step that can be taken. If not, being able to, put in grocery stores or things like that, like, it's something that can help and just bring awareness to it. Did anybody have any results that made them feel surprised or exceptionally upset? Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, why such limited hours?
I think it's because it's volunteer run.
Okay.
I know I'm only able to go 2 hours every Wednesday. I'm usually there 3:30 to 5:30, and there's a group that's there till 7. But it's also because we have to like get everything ready. Like we pre-pack the carts for them and stock the shelves and like bag things up. So if they came if we didn't have that prep time, we wouldn't be able to get the food out as fast. Because since COVID, they changed the model. It used to be they could come in and kind of pick what they want with vouchers, but they haven't gone back to the old model. We pre-do the carts for them, so I think that also plays a role in the timing.
They, interestingly, so a couple people from my church are on the board and volunteer a lot, and so we always get updates. But yeah, so they used to do the pick program, which didn't require a volunteer to go around with it, and they kind of prided themselves on being a choice pantry. But then they surveyed the people, and they'd actually prefer the pre-boxed,
Yeah.
and they get more food.
Yeah, they do get a larger amount that I've seen just from us. Like we put like one of every option in one cart, so they get a variety, which is good.
It's faster, I think,
Yeah.
is why it's preferred. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we wheel the cart out to them, and they put it in their car, and then they just give the cart back. So it's like they're picking up groceries. Anybody else want to share?
So this is our general action plan going forward, just spearheaded by promoting, supporting Start Fresh and getting that store off to a great and excellent start. Be it tabling, HBCC, or KIC, or really any building on campus. We could be the flyers or just getting signatures, whatever. And taking collections or donations of needed items to the Alliance Community Food Pantry, canned goods, or even simply just money, and anything we can to help the pantry. And our partnership with Abby Schroeder will be very key in getting her knowledge and guidance.
So to conclude, food deserts are a very prevalent issue in the United States, despite the fact that we are a global superpower, and we do have a lot of economic power. So the fact that we have issues of food deserts is kind of staggering, and I believe that overall, as a nation, we can address this problem more. Alliance Ohio does have a very prevalent food desert, and it is a hope that this grant and in the future that this food desert can be addressed. And hopefully Start Fresh will be the first step to this, and more people, hopefully it will set a tone for businesses to move to the area and realize the economic potential, because I believe that Alliance does have economic potential. We're very closely located to a very highly trafficked area, so hopefully businesses will start to move that way and there will be economic gain from that. Here are our references. Thank you, Dennis.